In a medical malpractice lawsuit in New York, how do you get a doctor to admit that he or she may have departed from good and accepted medical practice? Would you like to learn the answer? Come join me. Hi, I'm Jerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury trial attorney practicing law here in the state of New York. In a medical malpractice case in New York, I have an opportunity to question a doctor at his deposition, which is a question and answer session under oath done in his attorney's office. Now, during that opportunity, I have the ability to ask the doctor questions about his medical knowledge, about his medical training, and his level of expertise. I'm entitled to know whether or not the doctor is board certified, and what are the standards of care in treating a patient with your particular condition. In other words, I get to ask the doctor, in a patient who's got this particular condition, what exactly is that? And how do you recognize that particular problem? How do you rule out other problems? What is the differential diagnosis that you use, doctor, in order to evaluate whether or not a patient has this particular problem? And once you do that, doctor, what are the diagnostic tests that you use in order to rule in or rule out this particular condition? And would you agree, doctor, that a patient who presents with this particular problem, that it's imperative for you as the treating physician to do the following tests? And the reason why it's important is so that you can determine and evaluate whether or not the patient is suffering from this particular condition as opposed to another condition, correct? And would you agree, doctor, that the failure to properly perform these tests following your evaluation would be a departure from good and accepted care? Yes or no? And would you agree, doctor, that with a reasonable degree of medical probability that the failure to do these following tests would be a departure from good and accepted care in this circumstance? So what have I shown you? I've shown you just a sample of questions that we use to establish what the standards of care are in a particular situation involving a medical malpractice case in New York. And then we go ahead and ask the doctor to establish not only the standards, but what can happen when those standards are breached, and what can happen to the patient when those standards are breached. In New York, a doctor is presumed to be a medical expert. And so now I'm allowed to probe the doctor's medical expertise, establish what the standards of care are for this particular type of scenario, and then determine whether or not those standards were breached or violated during the course of your care and treatment. So why do I share this information with you? I share it with you just to give you an insight and an understanding into what goes on in the litigation process here in the state of New York. It's important for a consumer who's searching for an attorney to understand exactly what happens and why. And this is just a little bit of an insight into the litigation process and to the deposition process when I go ahead and question a doctor here in the state of New York. So chances are you have questions and concerns, you're watching this video, and you probably have more legal questions. Well, what I encourage you to do is pick up the phone and call me. I answer legal questions like yours every single day. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at lawmed10@yahoo.com. I'm Jerry Oginski here in New York. Thanks so much for watching.